But welcome to the No Spin Podcast, episode 23, the NJR interview, the final farewell, my brother, you know. And I was saying before it stopped recording, is it still recording? It's still recording. Thanks, thank you to the tech control. And I was thinking, like, how do we go through such an eclectic man, and how do we break it down? Because, like, not only are you a man who has created products, you're also you know. Welcome. So what was like young NJR? Like, because we grew up in Jarvis Bay or some shit?
Jervis, yeah.
Jervis Bay?
Yeah.
Yeah, so like, I mean, I've got a clear sort of understanding that you're basically just like a skate rat, right? Like, just like a little rascal, hooligan.
Yeah, to a point. I was also, I was a loner of a kid.
Yeah.
So it's a fairly thick, like, you know, natural wonderland. Like, there's beaches and, like, sand dunes and thick scrub for you to run around and catch animals and, you know, let your imagination run free. So...
Bit of a loner.
Yeah. Well, I had imagination. That was a pretty good friend.
Hermit.
I had imagination and a dog and plenty of other wilderness to explore.
You had like
so
a sitcom setup.
I wasn't too far away from being a Huck Finn.
Yeah, Huck Finn, yeah. Well, I mean, based on the fact that you fish on the Brisbane River with a hand reel, catching catfish with a line that goes between your toes, you're very much in Huck Finn territory now.
I missed my hand line in
oh, bro, it's all tackled up for you.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Oh, I went through like a million sinkers while you were gone. I snagged like a motherfucker. It was terrible. And do you remember like any really good stories like growing up? Like anything in particular
about
just
being
like
being
general,
a loner?
Just like what, you know, maybe something that like really summarize what it was to be like a young NJR growing up.
I remember
wondrous loner.
Behind my house there was a steep like dune that would go down to the St. George's Basin, and a school friend, Jack Baker, and I.
You have a Jack Baker friend? I have a Jack Baker.
Shout out to Jack Bakers.
Yeah, shout out to Jack Bakers.
We used to run around there and build forts, try to smoke out the rabbits, you know, catch crabs.
Nice.
You know, we used to try and like ride like truckless decks down the sandier part of the dune.
Oh right, yeah, just
take the wheels and the trucks off decks and just try and like ride the dune and stuff like that.
Do you remember being?
That may not be iconic, but
it's sort of the idea of like the natural wonderland. I understand what you're trying to say.
You know,
you were just too much time, a lot of freedom, and not a whole lot of need to socialize.
Yeah, not really.
Journeyed alone.
Not really.
Do you remember being 8 and thinking that your first vagina was an armpit?
Oh yeah, totally. Well, that's in that Wonderland.
That was in the Wonderland.
So walking around there. Yeah, so walking around those, that scrubby part on the base. There was all these vaginas hanging off twigs, and they obviously, I didn't know what they were because I was young. But what they led to was a stash. Someone stashed like a whole maybe kilo of weed in the bush there, and had marked their path with vaginas.
Like fleshlight sort of vaginas?
No, like just torn out pictures from like...
Oh! What the hell? You found a kilo of weed following vaginas?
Yeah.
Did you leave the kilo of weed there?
I threw it in the bin.
Oh my God, you're such a narc. Jesus Christ.
I didn't know what it was.
Yeah, of course you didn't. That's fair enough. I tell you what, if Nick knew what it was, he wouldn't throw it.
Like, it was just this big plastic thing with like grass inside, and I was like, the fuck? And I thought I owned those dunes, you know. So I was like, the fuck? Someone's dumping their the grass clippings and
pussies.
You know.
Wow. Tell you what, Jesus Christ. You were like, what are all these armpits leading to?
Yeah, totally.
Smelly grass. Yeah. Fucking hell. And so, like, obviously, I mean, you know, a core youth figure for you would have, like, especially when it comes to, like, exploring music and general hooliganism, hanging out with Millsy, of course. Do you remember tagging railway tunnels with beige wall paint and, and a tiny brush?
Yeah, I do. I do.
I love the idea of like, let's fucking tag it, but you don't have spray paint, so you just grab a house paint.
Maybe not tagging, but like doing just like big broad stroke.
Yeah,
you know,
just destructive stuff.
And you know, we were, it was like part practice, part like manic creativity.
Yeah, right.
If I can use it euphemisms
Yeah,
like
exactly.
that.
I just
you know.
think that's so funny. Just fucking take
Well,
beige.
yeah, it was just like, I don't know.
Beige wall paint.
There was like
down.
there was like a 2-month streak there where we'd be
Yeah.
early morning and we have some really great ideas and just be as resourceful as we could. And so if it was just beige paint and a thick brush, then so be it.
Let me I mean it's probably of worth to nobody but the art of it. But like let me read out something that you've written about the appraisal of your ability in primary school. So it goes, every appraisal of my ability, from primary school report card to today's performance review, has noticed that I'm flying under the radar, capable of a lot more. Piss off. Don't encourage the Brutus within. You really think I would want to stick some poor bastard for a European four-wheel drive? Let some other moron aspire to that. Let the rulers rule and the cruisers cruise.
Yeah, wild shit.
That's some life. You've definitely lived up to that.
That's nonsense.
That's
such
some nonsense?
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. That was you having to deal with the like. That's me having to deal with the potential comments where they're like, "Oh, Liam has so much
come on.
potential." Yeah.
Yeah, come on.
It's
You
like,
could.
fuck off. I don't want to
You're
do it.
smart and you're capable.
Exactly.
Do something.
Bullshit.
I was like, maybe I just want to fish and eat M&Ms. Like,
Exactly. And we've succeeded.
just being a petulant.
Combine them.
How old was that?
Could you fish on?
When was that comment? Was that like my 20s, early 20s?
Yeah, early 20s.
He's been a petulant 20-something.
Yeah, you were kind of pissed off at
Yeah.
the system.
Yeah.
I love that. I love the idea. Don't encourage the Brutus within.
The Brutus
Sensitive,
was him.
man. Oh, I didn't even know what the Brutus reference really was.
Well, Brutus is the one that backstabbed Caesar, right?
Yeah,
for
yeah,
power.
yeah. But I don't know if it was really. I don't know.
That was for power, wasn't
Oh,
it?
right. Yeah, yeah. So it's
That's what I'm getting at. So the ascension
wow,
to
such a tortured young man.
wank, wankery.
We've all been there. And some of us, like me, are still stuck in our wankery stages.
You'll get through it, mate. You'll get through
one
it.
day. Maybe when Mum will die. What about like I mean, obviously music a huge part. Like, so what are like the early bands like that a young NJR was into? Like, what sort of classics were you bumping? Because you're obviously a punk and a rock kind of guy.
What did I have?
Let's ignore all of the pop punk that you were into though.
Okay, well that's very easy then. I remember having like 2 favorite cassettes for my Walkman, and one of them had Beastie Boys' Check Your Head on one side and self-titled Rage Against the Machine on the other.
Wow, the ultimate starter kit.
And the other one had Pennywise, About Time, and
so you had a bit of hip hop influence right from the start. I mean, Beastie
Yeah,
Boys
as a
kind of punky, I guess.
yeah, they were the gateway for me.
Yeah.
They were the gate, definitely. So from Beastie Boys, I got into Tribe because Q-Tip would collaborate with them a lot. So Beastie Boys were my gateway for sure.
It's definitely, I think, a higher pedigree of hip hop than a lot of people could say they got in on. What I get in on, like Tyler the Creator and NWA.
Oh yeah, but I totally crush on Tyler at the moment.
Yeah, Tyler's totally reinvented himself, I suppose. But he always was like destined to be more of like a composer and sort of thing than he ever was like an edgy rapper anyway. Like it was pretty clear that's not really where his skills lied. Anyway, so yeah, like what was it? Like what got you into like the, like was it
I think
Wu-Tang?
I think it was just like I was like at some point I discovered Outkast.
No, yeah, of course, yeah.
And that was still late 90s.
Yeah.
Like Whole Wide World. I saw Whole Wide World on Rage one night.
God bless Rage.
I was like, shit, what's that? So then I got in, that was late 90s. And then so there's only one, because then after Love Below, then everything got a bit too distended and fanciful. And I was like, there's now more for me to explore. So I just went backwards.
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah, Love Below. That was.
And so then I probably would have just gone, what are the classics?
Yeah.
Give me the classics, internet. And it's gone, well, here's what you need to know.
Wu-Tang, definitely a classic. Day 6 Chambers. So
Yeah.
I want to, like, obviously not only do you have a robot heart, a pacemaker and all that, a man of cyborg-like features, but do you remember going head-to-head with the swine flu?
Oh, I do remember them.
Do you remember battling the swine flu?
Yeah, I do remember that.
And beating it down?
That was at when I lived in Urongpilly.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
just floored me for like 48 hours and I had like
Fought the fucking swine
hectic
flu.
fever dreams for 48 hours straight.
And so then you went to like this is so the actual chronological aspect of this is almost gone out the window because it was very hard for me to piece it all together. But like when you went from like Jervis Bay, I love saying Jervis Bay to like uni. Where did you go to uni? Where was like the uni for sound engineering or whatever you do?
So I went to I did a Bachelor of Contemporary Music at Southern Cross
Yeah.
in Lismore.
Oh right. Fucking hell, what was it like kicking around in Lismore and Ballina and all that?
It wasn't that different to where I came from.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Fair enough. So, just
You know.
New South Wales rural shit.
Yeah, you know,
Yeah.
semi-regional New South Wales. You know, one mall, a bunch of disaffected youth.
A lot of
You know.
tracksuits kicking around. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so whenabouts did you actually move up to Brisbane? Like
End of uni.
end of uni. So
There was a
came
bunch
up
of Brisbaneites that were down there.
Yeah.
So
and just
I
came
was down
up.
there with Milnes, and we were like, well, we want to make music, so we made some connections to Brisbane at uni. So we're like, it's only another 2 hours away. May as well just keep going north.
And did you move up and then start Roth? Is that sort of what happened, or
We went through a number of drummers for Roth.
yeah?
Nothing really
And
fun.
you ended up with Todd.
Well, Todd's a great drummer, but
Todd's a great drummer. Shouts out to Todd.
you know, we went through a lot of. No, they were always mismatches in total respect. You know,
Yeah.
both personality and ability, all those ones. And then we were like, well, we actually know a really good drummer that we get along with, so
And that was Toddles.
that's Doddles.
Nice. And then you're performing at Rick's classic Brisbane venue.
Everywhere.
Fucking oath. And I got some insightful wisdom around this time from you that you wrote down.
Right.
You said the boundary, every Friday, Saturday and Sunday, if you ain't got the blues yet, turn up and they'll give it to you for free. It is a depressing place sometimes.
Well, no,
The
like
Boundary Hotel, other than those 2-for-1s.
there was an
bro.
era there where the Boundary had, Blind Dog of a Friday night, the Walters of a Saturday night, and then Mojo Webb of a Sunday afternoon. And so there was just like this great kit of blues artists
Yeah.
for 3 days straight.
That's beautiful.
You
It's
know.
I like it though.
It was a great time. Mojo Webb, that was
I had no idea. I thought you were just referencing the depression that exists in
Oh,
some
you know.
aspects of that. Well, it's a sly reference.
Hmm.
Sly reference. Now I'm just going to shoot off some topics that I have from that time, and maybe just get maybe amusing or something on each one. Who was Aldo and Yolanda?
Oh, they're these old Italian couple that live opposite my parents' town on the south coast.
Oh right.
Like hardcore Italians, where they just grow all their own food and make their own wine and chillo and all
They
that.
make limoncello.
Yeah,
Yeah, right.
all that kind of stuff.
That is so bloody semi-rural New South Wales. There's an
Mm.
Italian person shitting out limoncello.
And you just turn around and they will get you drunk and feed
Yeah.
you all their things. You can't leave until like you can't walk home, and then they're like, "Oh, maybe you should go home now," even though
Yeah.
you can't actually walk to get home. You know?
You should leave now that you're paralytic.
Yeah.
And Roth actually released their music via torrent early, somewhat early on in the torrent game. Well, early on in the local torrent producing game. I was quite impressed. I was like, look at these industry leaders.
Well, yeah, like by that point we're like, whatever, may as well just put it
Yeah.
everywhere and anywhere. So
Because that was
let's just seed it.
that
from-
was the Roth being, your
I think you could
your
also
band.
download packets of it from like a GeoCities site as well. Just
yeah.
to take
Rest in peace, GeoCities. Good reference. Jesus Christ.
it, something to that effect.
Yeah,
We're just like,
GeoCities. Yahoo GeoCities.
let's take this concept to its.
And because in 2011 you had the Race of the Harridan EP come out.
Yeah, was that when that was?
Yeah, July 2011. Did you ever think like how limiting potentially the name Race of the Harridan was?
That was a great source of constant debate.
Yeah, interesting.
Mm.
I kind of agree that it is kind of limiting.
Oh yeah, it's a weird.
It's a weird phrase.
Yeah, and
Can I ask who came up and where it came from?
I think Milnes and I just had a bunch of mismatched words.
you guys are.
We had like just a
insane.
blank sheet of paper with all these weird
Yeah,
words on
right.
it, and just kind of strung things together. I think
God damn.
another
I
strong
wonder.
contender was White Pariah.
White Pariah.
Yeah,
Kind of glad that didn't happen. I guess
yeah, that seemed a bit too crusty.
it did a bit
For what we're
crusty,
doing.
yeah, and a little bit like new wave or something. But what was because I know you were doing a whole bunch of shit. Were you had you started doing like Crying Baby Neighbours all the way back then?
There was always like
Yeah,
it was endless creation. We're always making music to some extent, but Roth was the official face of it all. You know?
Do you remember the phrase "me want schnitty"?
Yeah, I do actually. My foray into memery. Yeah.
me want
hyper esoteric memery. Yeah, definitely.
And I think it's a beautiful concept. So I just wanted to record it on audio. But what is the Festival of Nick? Like, can you explain like the birthday ritual that is the Festival of Nick?
Oh yeah, that would go for like a week.
Yeah, like a week birthday where you just lived out all the things that you were effectively supposed to leave behind when reaching that age, right?
Is that how it works?
Well, I don't know. I
just remember I used to take
I only experienced the 30th.
Take a number of days off weekend.
Yeah.
Days off work. And,
well, you did juvenile things for your 30th. I'm sure there were different themes for the Festival of Nick.
Oh no, the 30th didn't pan out.
Oh, the 30th didn't pan out?
No, I had plans to do really juvenile things for my 30th, but then I had to get my pacemaker replaced.
Oh, that's right.
So I had the total opposite of what I had planned.
Instead of the robot enjoying his life on his 30th, he had to go back to the lab and get
struck down
up.
by the great irony.
Yeah, that was funny. I remember that. And so
thanks for your support.
We'll kick it back to 2011. What was it like seeing your bed floating in your room during the floods? Hilarious?
I really enjoyed the floods.
I think you had a great time during the floods.
Man, such destruction.
And
just watching Brisbane wash away was fantastic.
The beautiful, what a beautiful thing it is to see like a possum drinking frozen margarita mix.
Yeah.
A stranded possum.
He was so hungover that possum.
Yeah, he just fucking trashed himself. Did anything else come out of the floods?
Yeah, a new laptop and a guitar.
Because they got destroyed.
No, I didn't have one in the first place, but they gave me money to replace my bed and my wardrobe. Yeah. You know, you
hustling.
You got displaced from your house for so long. You got so much. If you had water up to so high for so long, Anna Bly gave you money, right?
Fuck yeah.
So she gave me money to replace all those things. It's like, no, I'm just gonna buy a new laptop and a new guitar. And
fucking oath. Shouts out to the floods.
No, then I think I just built weird things from like disparate parts of wood and metal for a new cupboard instead, I think.
Nice. The drifter life. Not drifter, but thrifter. And what about living in a tent underneath a coffee shop?
Yeah, that was the floods.
Yeah.
And see, there was such a freedom to the floods at that point because everything was
riot.
Free form, right?
It was
free
exactly
form.
like what was that big conference we had in where they locked down all the South Bank?
Oh, G20.
Oh, hey, dude, 420 at G20 was the heaviest time. That was great. We got fucking destroyed during G20. It was gnarly. Yeah, it was scary though. And do you remember being woken up by like some weird emo greaser that was working at the coffee shop every morning?
Oh yeah, so he inspired the Roth song "Time Vampire."
Really?
Yeah, he was a. If you want to understand white privilege, you want to listen to the conversations he would have to his friends on the phone in his work break.
And they were tragic.
Yeah, he'd bitch about his mum not letting him.
Oh, he's just a piece of shit, was he?
Yeah, bitch about his mum cleaning his room, and
right.
He wants to get to Berlin to write a book or some shit,
Oh,
and you know
God.
he was like living and working in Paddington. You know.
And so then you moved back in and you saved a guinea pig.
Saved a guinea pig?
Saved a guinea pig? Is that where you got
I
Fang?
bought one. Yeah, that was Fang.
And then you saved
this
Fang.
cool. He had like a monk cut.
Yeah.
And a denim vest.
And because 2012 brought the Bougie Rouge. And that included, Baby Ruth.
Such hits as
Baby Ruth.
Baby Ruth, jumbling truth.
Time Vampire. I can't remember the other two, but there was four on the thing.
Royal Cabriolet.
Yeah, you can still get that online if you guys are interested. Bougie Rouge, check it out. Roth.
He's a man.
And yes, that's true. Yeah, and the description, was an effortless blend and bend of rock and roll from the last 4 decades. Influences of surf beat, Britpop, grunge, and NYC punk and blues. Yeah, I think that was you. Obviously wrote that. I very much. I feel like that's you.
Probably me.
Yeah.
Probably me.
That was very much Who is Dean Slater? That's all I want to
Oh,
ask.
shout out to Dean Slater.
That's pretty much the only question I wanted to ask this entire interview.
Dean Slater's a South Coast guy.
Yeah, he's just a
Like-
dog though, is he? Just a boy.
In a circle from like early high school.
Is he all right these days?
He's still very much himself. I caught up with
Shouts out Slates.
one of the other inner circles from Bristol in
Yeah.
the UK just now, and we were sharing stories of what Dean Slater's up to now, and he hasn't changed.
Fucking shouts out Dean
Shout
Slater.
out,
Dean
shout out.
Slater had a real impact.
He's a hilarious guy. I
Yeah.
love him, but
And do you remember
an acquired taste, definitely
a
acquired
really sad moment? I think it occurred around end of 2012 where we in fact lost Fangbot Craptack. It was
taste. Fangbot Craptack. That was his full name. Yeah.
Fangbot Craptack.
Yeah. There's still under mysterious circumstances. that-
Emily killed him. Emily killed him.
Possibly.
Yeah,
Just
because she'd
through-
already
just-
killed the bird. Remember?
Just through out of
Two for two.
neglect, right?
Yeah,
So
neglect. Yeah. And then we enter 2013, which at least for me was an important one because you met up with Ben and started making hip hop. Highgate Mountain 2013, and
Yeah.
rising to the occasion and working with Platinum Pen as well, pretty much simultaneously actually,
Yeah.
very similar times.
Yeah.
And Roth was doing shows with like the Johnny Mustards and a few other guys. I can't remember all their names.
Yeah. That's when Roth was just doing gigs.
Yeah.
So we were playing anywhere between Sunshine Coast to Lismore.
Did you find it a fairly easy transition into making like hip hop beats and stuff like that from what you'd been doing, being that eclectic mix of NYC punk and blues?
Well, maybe just the whole idea of being a bass player and building a groove. So building grooves is what I was attracted to.
Yeah.
It was just a matter of getting my head around, finding samples and how to sample,
Yeah, right. And I think it's at this time you started working for, legendary in my recollection of Nick, but his work for 4ZZZ, the Entering the Beast around the start of 2014.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. So what was it like? Like for anyone who wants to get involved in community radio, like uncut, what is community radio like?
Well, back then it was more community centre than radio stations. So back then it was like community centre with like a radio transmitter.
Yeah.
But now over time, kind of just
You've definitely been a pioneer in making sure like this is a radio
this is a
station.
radio station,
We do radio. We
So
want to
treat
do
it-
good radio.
and treat it like one, respect it. So yeah, that's at the beginning, that's kind of that whole, that really essentially Brisbane DIY
Yeah.
ethic, right? And way.
Because 4ZZZ is at its most heart like punk, right? Like even music aside, it's a punk place. It's punk.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's very left leaning.
Yeah. And because like you ran your own shows, you helped create new ones, you choose music, like a huge involvement. So like, and this was a big time, at least for me personally, because this is when you and Ben were making lots of music, and therefore just by de facto I was hanging out with you guys because you were doing the 18 tracks for American Soil. You released Wallflower by the Crying Baby Neighbours, which is actually probably my favourite track you've ever done.
Yeah, right.
I love it. I love Wallflower.
Dean Slater was a part of that.
Really?
Yeah.
Fucking shouts out Dean Slater.
Mm.
That and Blomo and Honolulu are probably my three favourite of your songs.
Blomo was a great
Blomo's
product
a
in
great
general.
song, yeah. And
Artwork, film clip,
because
song.
you produced 18 tracks for American Soil,
Fucking A.
and you did 5 tracks for Highgate Mountain 1, 5 tracks for HP's First, 5 tracks for Highgate Mountain 2, but that was later on. And
It's a lot of beats.
yeah, you were doing a lot of beats,
It's
man.
practice.
You were in the lab, bro.
Just got to get in and practice.
Yeah.
Figure your way through it.
And you also took me to one of what I would say my first great rock show of all time, like where I actually felt like the essence of rock and roll, like
Right.
because I've been to shows where it's just like people playing instruments, but I've never seen anything where the
energy
music
was
plays the artist more than anything.
Right.
Like, and watching Bones break down during the Dead Wolves performance.
Oh, yeah.
That was, that was a real one for me. That was a special moment. I always remember that. That was crazy. Because you guys were, and at that time you were doing like the Blomo and Honolulu videos, which for me was like peak Roth. Like that was my,
That's probably ousted our most efficient at that point.
Yeah, because they were both sick videos too. Like the Blomo video is really cool. Like and the Honolulu, because that you skateboarding.
No, that was Mills skateboarding and Blomo.
You guys actually look kind of pretty similar as well.
We do get mistaken for
your
brothers every
faces
now and
are
again.
quite similar. And anyone who knows Nick knows that he's a long time shit kicker. As far as like working at the car park.
Oh, shout out car parks.
Shout out car park. And at points you had become employee of the month, and you had become employee of the month at one stage.
Did I?
Yeah, you were valued employee. It was beautiful.
Probably with an asterisk with one of those just
you were very surprised that it happened to you, and like you were disturbing young heroin addicts and kicking people out of the stairs and.
Yeah, till the day that I finished, I was kicking people out of stairwells.
What are any good car park stories? Like any? I know. Remember time you found some bud just because some kids dropped it because they were terrified of you. That was a blessing.
There's a lot of drugs and money found in the stairwells of car parks.
Drugs and money in car parks. People like shooting up in car parks and shit like that.
Yeah.
I thought one day you found the guy who was like sleeping. You're like, move your shit, and he didn't. So you threw his shit out, and there was like needles and all that beneath his bed and stuff like that.
Sounds vaguely familiar. I was shut down for playing harmonica in the beneath the Novotel because it was deemed unprofessional.
What they don't realise is they basically took out a great character from whatever movie was going to be filmed in that moment.
Oh no!
They took out the parking attendant that played the harmonica.
Everyone missed it.
BS. And I mean. Do you remember like tying your muffler together with bass strings?
Fucking hell, dude.
Just the lemon, just keeping the lemon alive.
Keeping the lemon alive.
Oh, we rolled the lemon's good, man.
Is
the
it?
Lemon's fun. I took it for a drive.
I
actually practiced parking for my peas in the lemon.
Good, that's a good practice.
Took it down to
it's
Coles
a long,
Greenslopes.
Very
long, wide car, but the turning circle's actually pretty good. I was kind of surprised. 2015, like I know we're blowing through it, but like the man's just got off international flights.
And it's not as if there's that much to find, right?
There's actually quite a lot.
Oh, is there?
I did cutting a lot. So you started doing like East Side Grammar at this point. You created such legendary tracks as Disco, Horsepower Ride, Montage, Spirit Bunny Remix. Truly, that one touched me. That was one of the better ones.
Is that still up there?
No, but I've listened to it.
Right.
It's gone now. And Kevin the Fucked Up Goldfish.
That's where I started to get a lot more experimental.
Yeah.
Butts, beer bottle tops, a little red Lego man, gravel from the backyard, and some water.
Which I think is
sound design instead.
Because you were very much a diverse producer of content throughout your entire life. And I would say even stuff like Young G the Man, King of Vanilla, like, you produced tracks for like an entirely not left side, but just out of what you're used to, sort of.
Justin
fucking
Mangwa.
Shouts out Young G, man.
Mangwa, man.
And I think this isn't probably one of the most poignant questions, but as we get towards the end, like, break down the haircut for us.
Which one?
This one.
Oh, right, it's a mullet.
Yeah, is it anything inspire you? Like, because I think a lot of people would be like, I feel like, it hampers and helps you in both ways. It's kind of like this. It's like a dog gate. Like real humans just step over the gate, but dogs like, man, how can I ever pass this gate? How can I ever approach this human? He looks so bizarre to me.
Right.
Yeah. Just decided I'm just going to shave my hair and get a mullet.
It was partly...
Just because you're a punk?
Someone asked me
Shit
about this
kicker?
in London. Just in that... The origin of it seems to shift. But it was partly the Brisbane heat.
Yep.
It was a combination of fighting the Brisbane heat and then having to sweep the fringe off my face.
Mm-hmm.
And also my hair being the longest it had ever been.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what, I'm just going to grow my hair, but then I struggled with the heat. So I was like, well, I can't have a fringe. And at one stage I had like a... what's his name? Lord Farquaad from...
Yeah. You
so
had one of those,
I had long hair with like this... Like
the all day.
Dead bangs.
Yeah.
And I was going to do that again. And I thought, you know what, fuck it. I'm just going to shave the front half of my head.
Fucking hell.
And have a really drastic mullet.
Well, there you go. That's all there is to it. It actually is less deep than I'm sure everybody thinks.
Yeah, no,
Everybody
a
thinks,
lot
yeah.
about me is not as deep as you think.
Yeah, I think that's just general in life. Were you, because you'd at this point moved into this very apartment, but were you surprised at how connected you became to the Brisbane River?
No.
You weren't?
No.
You knew it was going to happen?
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
shit.
because how did we start this interview?
What?
You said, tell us about the young Nick. And I said, well, I was running around
Yeah, fair enough.
the
fair
water and the
enough,
trees
yeah.
by myself. So if I can just sit here with the water and trees by myself, then, it's just like,
You're pretty much returning home.
yeah.
All right. I see that. That's actually quite deep. I get that. Because you at this point, you were doing the Eulogies EP, which...
eulogies. That was more of an exorcism than anything.
Yes, it was a misinterpreted exorcism where everyone thought you were
Celebrating
it
guitar,
when you
just
in fact
like,
were
no.
saying goodbye to it.
Yeah.
And which I suppose the eulogy was, but that's an underrated piece of music. That's really good music. I enjoy that.
Right,
I think
thank
it's
you.
a good piece. But and then obviously the Babbling Brown Snake, a revolutionary live stream that just took casual conversation to a next level, inspired by the natural surroundings. It was a beautiful thing, and I was very glad to be part of that. And I will say one of the highlights was the Facebook descriptions that you would write up. I went through a lot of them today. Madness.
I feel like that
You
was,
have a real flair for that shit. It was crazy.
I think that was the best part of the show.
Yeah, it really was one of the best parts.
The strongest part of that show was
you would talk your guests up in such a beautiful, eloquent way, and they would most usually disappoint you by being fairly benign humans.
Well, yeah, we all are.
We
fairly
all are.
benign.
What do you think your favorite episode to host was? Mine excluding. Mine's excluded, so don't pick that.
Oh man.
Yeah, I know. I was figuring. I was
No,
like,
it
don't
was-
just pick mine. It's not.
The one where I built the little noise box and
Oh,
ran
you
it through the Marshall stack, and, and did some river jams
Just did a river jam.
by myself,
Just who's on Z Digital just listening to a guy
Yeah.
do river jams?
Yeah, that was great. That was a great afternoon.
I feel bad for I don't even feel bad, but I want to know who was listening to Z Digital during some of the
Man, a lot of
Brown
people
Snakes.
do listen to it.
Yeah, I know they do.
And I got some good feedback from Brown Snake.
Of course. And at that same point, you started doing the this very podcast with me as well, which I'm very grateful for, and I appreciate it a lot. And helped me out as a sound man, but also you were my conversational partner during most of it. And as I listened towards the end, as you became more of a sound guy and less of a host, I actually miss it. You're a much better host than you are a sound guy. Yeah,
Thank you.
Sound's not even that hard.
Thank you.
But
Shout out to Sound Guy.
Shout out to sound guy. At a gig, a sound guy's much harder. Than this,
a good AV tech is hard to find.
hard to find. Do you have a favorite No Spin Records episode or interview that you enjoyed the most, or any highlights from doing it? Just in a reflective sense. I mean, obviously
I think the Scrub one was pretty.
The Scrub one was definitely. It is legendary.
Just because he was so G'd to be interviewed, and then he opened up.
He was
That was
was
done some.
wild.
That was the one where we actually appreciated true fandom or
Yeah.
true community, right?
That was
Where the numbers just jacked on top of every day. They're just
the number's still jack. It's 12 today. I just
Yeah.
wonder.
Yeah, so that's when I'm
people really fuck with him hard.
yeah. So oh wow, people can really connect with
Yeah.
the grassroots artists in Australian hip hop,
And yeah, that's a very good way to put it.
So that one's probably the
Yeah.
most
Yeah, I enjoy that.
illuminating.
That's a good way to put it. It really did bring light and life to and actually gave us a face to local hip hop that was actually enjoyed by people locally. Yeah. So good point. Good one. That's definitely a similar one for me. And up and what's the next adventures for NJR? Moving.
Well,
Moving in with the guy whose phone call you just pretty hard ignored, so that's going to be
Oh,
interesting.
look, that's logistical nonsense. So that can wait. But yeah, I'm open. So I could stick with radio, or I could turn back to the bush and build another noise box to make
I think stick with the radio. I'd like to see you in radio again.
weird noise. Who knows?
Would you like me to go through a few egg corns?
Yeah, I want to hear some of these egg
Some
corns.
egg corns?
Can
The
you just
fir-
define what an egg corn is?
And I can't. Would you like to define what
Did
an
I
egg corn is?
did I coin egg corn?
Yes.
I've got
well,
no
you
idea.
found the definition of egg corn.
I have no
and
idea.
it was it's like words that are said by somebody but are interpreted different by the person listening, kind of thing.
Oh.
So it was like you saying stuff that might seem like nonsense, but you were trying to express something.
Right.
And so I'm just going to shoot through them because why not?
Eggcorns.
The
yeah,
first
okay.
one was Gemutschlag Borrow. I don't know what that was.
Neither do I.
Gemutschlag Borrow.
Sometimes you got to just smash some letters together and see
Nick
what
was
happens.
served by a deaf girl at a checkout. She yawned, and he asked if she'd had a long day. She wrote on the back of some receipt paper that she went to see Britney Spears last night and thought it was awesome.
Tell
Britney
you-
Spears, spectacle for the deaf.
Yeah. No, I actually really truly appreciated that experience
sound like a
because she
beautiful
came
moment.
to life when she got to
Yeah.
talk about how much she enjoyed seeing Britney
I
Spears.
love
She was
that.
like, "Yeah,"
Spectacle for the deaf.
and I've just totally cut her down there with spectacle for the deaf. But anyway,
You'd think a wisdom tooth would understand that in order to serve the greater being properly, it should stand in line with its comrades, not stick its rogue head out of the left. Infidels will be removed by force.
they damn well, yeah.
Discovered nothing interesting. Everything is okay though. Wipeout is on tonight.
Oh, Wipeout.
You had a strong Wipeout phase?
Man, I like seeing people get hurt.
You do. You still like that. Yeah.
Like Kook Slams on Instagram at the moment is one of my
Yeah,
favorite
Kook
things.
Slam's great. I love
Oh
Kook
my
Slams.
God,
Shout out
same.
Kook Slams.
So Wipeout was, man,
A legendary.
source of
Oh,
great
people
ch-
hitting those balls was legendary.
Oh.
Smash 'em.
Wipeout.
Found soil in the garden, dirt in the house, graffiti on the streets, and art in the museums. That one I just thought was kind of poignant. I don't know, even if it is.
Yeah, that's just, you know, how do you want to slice the bread?
Exactly. NJR is spitting lactic acid. Periphery out in shame. Ramalama lame. Chisel seesaw reducer. Just walk a little smoother.
Yeah, that's acid talking. That's what that is.
I sold my sour grapes on eBay for $4.50 a pop.
Yeah.
Rats attack. Boots ship. You fartsy? Nemen si bitcoin the mind dam.
Yeah, right. Okay. I don't know if I still agree with myself there, but
Just impregnated Manny Munts.
Manny Muntz was a fictional character that featured in a lot of stories. She was someone that Nick Milnes and I would use to just have fun with.
Nicholas Rodwell is one astronomically subtle reference.
Yeah. Okay. Sure.
Nicholas Rodwell is loosely based on masticated fruits.
Yeah. Still am.
Nicholas Rodwell is starting a twee band called Nickel Knock and the Arts and Crafts Expressionists. We're waiting.
That was a good idea.
Guitars are cool, yes, but you all sound shit without a bassist. Bitter bass talk. Bitter bass talk.
Yeah, well, that was probably when there's a lot of like just guitar and drums duos.
Yeah.
And so there'd just be like this wash across the top, and only one thing to hold it down was a kick drum, and then they're just
Yeah.
it's just there's a spectrum of frequencies that you need to actually be engaged, I believe, and so.
To the girl I punched in the boob out in the front of 140 Elizabeth Street, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for I'm sorry for embarrassing your friend and my colleague. I'm sorry for using too large of a hand gesture for a humble story about the rise of the Dunlop volley. And I'm sorry for the mental and physical discomfort I caused you on your lunch break. But you ought to quit hogging the sidewalk, darling. I couldn't see I was in the middle of something big.
Yeah, I feel like that's happened to me a lot, but I don't remember that exact
Slapping
experience.
Mugged 6 hours into NYC.
Yeah,
That sucks.
it was. It was a gentleman's mugging there. Like he just took the money and the card and gave me back my wallet with my
Yeah,
ID. And
that's
so,
nice.
to be fair, I was being a bit of a shithead. So
Nicholas Rodwell is drinking Carver. Goodbye, cold. Goodbye, nervous system. Good night.
Carver's some great stuff.
Carver is some great shit.
Yeah.
Me and Jolly had the Carver a few times. With the Anzac Bridge suspended overhead, I coo in seclusion like a tinsel-wrapped pigeon. While they've got lapdogs and seagulls nibbling at their heels, O Santo Calandini sits curbside rasping crass mass profanities.
Yeah, that's
Go to jail for that shit.
Yeah,
honestly.
that's sophistry.
It was a joy when the Jew gave me a left leather shoe. I was a little peeved at first, but then I tipped out the dirt and discovered a gold doubloon.
Gold.
Fucking oath. Well, how was your trip? You have a good time?
Not as good as going back through my social media.
Legendary.
Status
and there's even
updates.
more gold in there. But to keep it concise for the people of Brisbane and for your own enjoyment, I thought I'd finish up there.
With the acorns. Thank
The
you.
Eggcorns.
Thank you.
No, pleasure. Thank you very much for your help with
Kind
the
of a-
podcast.
Kind of puts the jet lag at bay, knowing that I've
Yeah,
had a quick trip back
Yeah, no
through
worries.
memory status lane.
and I feel like we should finish this off with a cigarette. with a cigarette that rolled for us by our friend and frequent collaborator Jolly B.
Is he making the cue?
Thank you. Any final thoughts, Nick?
No.
He never does. Thank you for being consistent. Very much appreciate you coming in for the episode after a fairly large flight. It's good to have you. It's going to be sad to see you go. You're going tomorrow, right? What time?